Thank you for joining us, and this is Business. The National Bureau of Statistics says the 36th state of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory recorded 1.6% year-on-year growth in internally generated revenue to 1.92 trillion in 2022 from 1.89 trillion in 2021. This is contained in the Bureau's report on internally generated revenue at state level for 2022. The Bureau said the taxes subcategories recorded in period are pay as you earn, direct assessment, road taxes, stamp duties, capital gain tax, withholding taxes, other taxes, and LGA's revenue. According to the report, similar to what was recorded in 2021, the leading states in total IGRO in 2022 were Lagos, Rivers, and the FCT respectively, while the least three performing states during the year were Kebbi, Taraba, and Yobe State respectively. And in the meantime, the Federal Executive Council has approved a draft policy for the solid mineral sector. Among other dynamics in the sector. The Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Dr. Delia Alake, says this after the FEC meeting held at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. The minister said the approval empowered the ministry to act precisely on various issues, including security measures, combating illegal mining activities across the country, and securing Nigeria's economic survival. He said the solid mineral sector is critical to Nigeria's economic survival due to ongoing changes in the global oil market, the push for climate change, and the shift towards green energy. Collaborations between rich, successful entrepreneurs and friends of Africa can help achieve better living conditions for African youth. The Tony Elumelu Foundation says this is its vision as it hosts the visiting European Commissioner for International Partnerships in Abuja. Moyo Thomas reports.
Ladies and gentlemen,
it is not just an evening to wine and dine, but discuss important life-transforming issues that concern youth and entrepreneurial development in Nigeria. This event is held in honor of the European Commissioner for International Partnership, who is on a two-day visit to Nigeria. Her visit focuses on how to support in addressing gaps in investments. The Tony Elumelu Foundation has supported over 1.5 million and empowered over 18,000 African youth in flourishing entrepreneurship, a venture that cost over $100 million. The Tony Elumelu Foundation says this laudable milestone has been reached with support from the EU.
Indeed, development and security are two sides of one coin. And that's why we are also investing in Nigeria a lot in education, primary education as well as vocational education and training. We work with you in terms of training young entrepreneurs as well as women.
Poverty anywhere is a threat to all of us everywhere. Two, that what counts at some point in life is not the bank balances you have in your account, but the impact, the legacy that you leave behind. And we know that there's no greater sense of fulfillment in life than helping another person succeed.
9 out of 10 entrepreneurs who go through the Tony Elumelu Foundation are still thriving, still scaling, still creating jobs 5 years after going through our program. That's very significant. And the reason why they do so is a combination of factors. One, it's the type of funding that we give them.
For many business people, one of the challenges has been financing, exacerbated by the fear of loans.
Become a one-stop shop where we can serve small businesses, cater to all their needs. Access to finance, access to market, capacity development, mentorship like the Tony Elumelu Foundation does, and building phenomenal networks. Networks where they can be each other's crutches, where an ecosystem where every entrepreneur in that ecosystem can thrive. So that's one of the wish lists. Collaborations.
Mr. Tony Elumelu expressed optimism that things will pan out well if everyone works together to make Nigeria the right investment destination. Investment, according to him, brings capital, which creates jobs and will result in the fixing of the protracted insecurity in the country. Moyo Thomas, TVC News, Abuja.
And in global equities markets now, Asian equities rose slightly earlier today to stand just off their lowest since November 2022, while the dollar eased as traders avoided better ahead of economic data expected to offer clues to the next steps by the U.S. Federal Reserve. MSCI's Broadex Index of Asia Pacific shares outside Japan reversed losses to trade 0.41% higher. Japan's Nikkei was up 0.21% after an earlier slide of as much as 1.4%. Futures showed European stock poised to open lower, with the Euro Stoxx 50 futures down 0.1%. German DAX futures down 0.11% and FTSE futures 0.16% lower, while China shares stayed under pressure. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index sliding to 0.16% or 0.68%, although the Shanghai Composite Index rose 0.32%. China's blue chip CXI 300 index was flat after closing yesterday at the lowest in 4.5 years. And China is set to unleash a fresh fiscal stimulus to shore up its economic recovery, drawing up on the well-used playbook that relies heavily on debt and state spending but falls short on the deeper reforms called for by a growing number of analysts. Experts recommend that the government lift its 2024 budget deficit target beyond the 3% of gross domestic product set for this year, which will allow Beijing to issue more bonds to revive the economy, policy insiders and economists said. The world's second largest economy grew faster than expected in the third quarter, improving the chances Beijing can meet its growth target of around 5% for 2023. China's parliament is set to approve over 1 trillion yuan, that's about $137 billion, in additional over sovereign debt issuance when it concludes a 5-day meeting that began October 20. Bitcoin rose 6% today to 35,198 cents per 1 unit, its highest in nearly a year and a half, on mounting speculation that an exchange-traded Bitcoin fall is imminent. Following a 10% surge yesterday when Bitcoin posted its best day in almost a year, the bullishness spread across the wider crypto market and into related stocks. Approval by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission of an exchange-traded fund is predicted to fuel demand. Chief Investment Officer of Saxo, Mr. Stephen Jacobson, says the value of any asset is the amount of people using it, will make a large audience and increase liquidity by ETF. The International Energy Agency says global demand for coal, oil, and natural gas is set to peak by 2030. In its annual World Energy Outlook, the agency said a combination of growing momentum behind clean energy technologies and structural economic shift around the world could bring peaks in global demand for fossil fuels. The IEA Executive Director, Mr. Fatih Birol, said the transition to clean energy is happening worldwide and is unstoppable and not a question of if it's just a matter of how soon, and the sooner the better for all of us. He said that fossil fuel use is still far too high to keep within reach of the Paris Agreement goal of lifting the rise in average global temperature to 1.5 degrees Celsius. And in global oil market now, crude oil prices were broadly stable today following the previous session's dip. After a flurry of economic data from Germany, the wider Eurozone and Britain sketch a bearish picture that could weigh on oil demand. US West Texas Intermediate crude rose today to sell at $85.97 per barrel with an uptick of 0.56%. Brent crude futures also experienced an upward price margin of 0.58% to sell at $90.35. Bonny Light recorded a price decline of 2.3% to sell at $93.10 per barrel. For the OPEC basket now, crude oil dealers offer $85.50 per barrel with a downward price reveal of 9.49%.